Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the RotoViz Best Ball Show. I'm Kevin Szafraniec, and I'm joined by Blair Andrews. We're currently in a big board draft, about 30 seconds away, and we got the 101. So, with 30 seconds, Blair, how you feel?
I feel great. I love some 101s. Am I wrong in thinking we had the 101 last week in our draft that, spoiler alert, ended up getting wiped out?
Yeah, because we definitely didn't have it the first draft that we did this season, so it must have been last week. And yeah, so if anybody's following along at home, we had some hijinks where there was a really goofy Kareem Hunt first round pick, a team that only had three running backs total, and none of them were very good. So yeah, we got the notification that Underdog wiped that draft out from last week. So are we going back to the well with Jamar Chase?
Yeah, I think since we now technically don't have any chase exposure, it makes sense. I'm also, of course, never opposed to doing something a little bit crazy and going off the board. So
Well, I think if we get another 101, maybe we'll go get a little silly, but I try to get my chase exposure when I can at this point because we got Puka at the 102 as well, which is a little spicy.
let's pull this up.
Uh, so how are you feeling since Puka went 102? Like, who's your second ranked wide receiver right now? Because I mean, for me, I've been going Jefferson over any of the other wide receivers, and a lot of the time over a lot of the running backs that are in that second tier, or I guess the first tier running back. But so really, I just go Jefferson. But I don't know if you're looking at things any differently.
I think that it's Jefferson for me as well at number two. I can see a case for Puka for sure. I think you can make a case for a lot of guys at number two. Um, maybe CD, maybe Amon Ra even. But yeah, I would lean toward Jefferson as well. I think
Yes.
after Chase goes off the board, then the running backs become kind of more interesting than the wide receivers, though.
Yeah, I've CD somebody who I have not gotten a lot of this year just because of I haven't really been getting very many like middle round picks. I've either been at the the front of the order or the back. So he's definitely somebody that I want to, juice up my exposure to. I'm interested to see what that Dallas offense is going to look like. I mean, Schottenheimer, really all I know about Schottenheimer is from his time with Seattle, and any really Seattle OC under Pete Carroll is not very enticing. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but I can't really foresee, you know, CD Lamb, a healthy CD Lamb, not being close to the league in targets next year. So it's just really, I don't think I don't want to overthink the CD Lamb
Right,
case.
right. We've got a couple players going into year two, rounding out the first round, both here and in kind of ADP. But the year two breakout is something that we've highlighted as a very powerful element for wide receivers. Is there any world in which you'd consider Neighbors or Thomas or even McConkey kind of ahead of some of these other veteran wide receivers like Lamb?
Wow. I don't know about. I think it's start. I don't even know about Nico or Amon-Ra. It's really hard.
Yeah.
I'm just happy just taking him where I can get him. More or less, if I'm sitting at the back half of the round, and I mean, I think I would just be kind of chalky in all honesty, just for the fact that I just want to get exposure to all those guys. So there might be a world
Right.
where I mean, I feel like there's plenty of worlds where Thomas or Neighbors outproduces Nico or Amon Ra, depending on how those offenses go. But I think just from the aspect of wanting to get my exposure to all of them, I think I just kind of go chalky. But because I feel like coming around at the second, coming around the turn, there's probably a good chance that you're going to get good exposure to all those names. It seems like the first half of the second round is just kind of like a big lump of players that could go really in any order. So I
Yeah.
think that you're going to get your combinations to those guys regardless of kind of where you sit. Are you feeling any different about the second year guys?
I mean, I think that's probably right. If Neighbors' quarterback situation were a little bit more uncertain, no, less uncertain, if I had more confidence in it, I'd really strongly consider moving him up pretty aggressively. But yeah, there's still a lot of question marks, obviously.
And I do know, just on a recent episode of Stealing Bananas, Ben and Sean were kind of talking about how Liam Cohen, am I getting that right? The OC that the Jacksonville just hired as their head coach,
Oh yeah, I think that's
Tampa
right.
Bay. I think so too. For some reason, I'm thinking like the Cohen brothers, and I'm
Right.
like, is that right? Is that one of the Cohen brothers, or is that the name of the offensive coordinator? But but just kind of highlighting like how his offensive design really lifted up those Buccaneers receivers. So it kind of just puts an extra like feather in the cap of what BTJ may do next year. So I really don't think that you could really go wrong maybe with either Neighbors or BTJ over those guys. But like I say, just for the way that the kind of the second round shakes out, I feel like you're going to get your exposures and the combinations that you want no matter what.
Yeah.
And we are back on the board. Currently at the top, we got T. Higgins, McLaurin, Garrett Wilson. How you
I'll
feeling
tell
about the guys
you.
that are going?
I'll tell you. Well, I was hoping Irving might fall. The guys I want here are actually McBride and JSN, but if
Okay.
you think it's too early for them, then I'm happy
Mm-mm.
to go with anybody ahead of them.
I haven't gotten much McBride this year, so we can go with that for sure. And then I say I'm not really opposed to going Jason. I feel like all the wide receivers available to us here are all kind of in the same bucket, same tier.
Right.
So even if you're following ADP, like it's just kind of obviously ADP wise, you're looking at Higgins first, then McLaurin, then Wilson, then it's Smith and Jigba, but can't really say that any of those guys are really head and
Yeah.
shoulders above the others. I
I'm
am.
okay with I'm okay with Higgins here if you want to go kind of the Cincinnati onslaught route, but we didn't do that.
No, I just want because I honestly don't really feel. I feel like maybe there's like a 25% chance that Higgins is back with them next year.
Yeah,
Um,
right. Good point.
I don't really. I mean, I think he's going to do well if he is there because I think he was on. I can't remember off the top of my head what his points per game was this year. It was in the free agent article I wrote up, but I mean, his points per game was something wild, like wide receiver 4 in points per game. I could look it up real quick.
Mm,
But I mean, it was really high, higher than I expected. But it's just he missed so much time that obviously, I mean, he missed 4 games or so, and it was very up and down as well.
yeah.
Let's see what we got here. So looking up, so Higgins was the great radio right here. Yeah, I was right. Higgins was the wide receiver 4 in PPR points per game, and with the 5th most touchdowns. So he averages 18.7 PPR, but he only played in 12. He was only active for 12 games. So
Right. Yeah, I mean,
I can see
obviously
more of that coming.
he's worth that um yeah, that price if he stays with Cincinnati. But that's the question, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to
And
imagine him going to a better situation. I think we talked about this last week. Like even if he becomes the wide receiver 1 in New England or in I don't know, I don't know where else he could go. Washington or something. I don't know.
mhm,
It would be. It's not clear that those situations would see him scoring more fantasy points.
mhm. I say I don't really know. I mean, it's yet to be determined what Cincinnati is going to do. I mean, let's just for the sake of of seeing them kind of as a team progress. Let's hope maybe they fill out their defense a little better. Spend some of that money. I think they have about 40 million in cap space right now. So,
Mm,
I mean, their defense was just so bad. I guess it was good for fantasy, obviously, because we saw Joe Burrow throwing the ball over the place. But yeah, I can't foresee you know, their management saying like, we think that signing T Higgins to a big deal is really going to make our team better as opposed to kind of working on, filling other holes in their roster. So,
yeah.
but I mean, who am I? That's what I always say. That's what I always say. I'm like, who am I to say what these people are thinking? You know, I'm just sitting here drafting fantasy rosters, and they're making millions of dollars to do their job. You know, running NFL franchises. So who am I to say?
Yeah, yeah, right. One thing that's pretty interesting in this draft, and maybe it was just because the last one was so weird, but we do see only the two elite quarterbacks getting drafted in the third round. I know some earlier ADP had some of them going earlier. If you're drafting in the FFPC at all, QBs are going crazy early in those drafts, even in non-super flex. Uh, I say that as we see Hertz go off the board in the fourth round. Yeah, what are you thinking about these QB ADPs so far in this season, where we have basically 6 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds?
I've been shocker. I've been kind of straying away. I've been sprinkling them in a little bit, but for the most part, I've been happier taking window QBs this year. And we've
Mhm.
talked about it on past streams that I think CJ Stroud is like crazy underpriced, especially after Slowick's gone. I think that offense is going to balance out, and just across the board, I have a hard time really grabbing any of those guys. Been really hitting, you know, wide receivers. I mean, like, I feel like wide receivers last a little bit longer this year comparatively to like last year, but at the same time, I mean, they do dry up around round, you know, 6 or so. They start getting kind of gross. So
Yeah,
I've just tried and focus more, you know, going back to the well of a strategy that may not have worked so well last year, but I think last year was kind of an oddity. So, I mean, I'm sprinkling in of them. I think, I mean, Daniel's obviously really fun, and he like of the early tiers. We're talking Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Daniels. Obviously, I just want to grab the last of them. I feel like he's that last of that top tier, so he's the one that I try to gravitate towards. And then obviously, if the other guys fall maybe a round or so, I try to pick them up there. But
yeah,
you know, I've just been happy, just kind of feasting in the window. How are you
right.
feeling about some of these elite quarter? I haven't, full disclosure, I have not drafted on FFPC yet, so I'm excited to guess kind of see where they're sitting.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat pretty much. We are on the clock, so perhaps we should make this pick or these 2 picks before we do anything. You've queued up Odunze and Addison, who are picks that I love.
Okay.
Fully on board with that. If you want, speaking of elite quarterbacks, we could get Burrow to go with Chase here, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it. I'm not 100% opposed to it, but I mean, I think we're setting ourselves up pretty well if we just keep hitting wide receiver. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's up to you. We still have 14 seconds. If you want to make a case for Joe Burrow, more than welcome to. We have Addison at the top of the queue now.
The only case to be made is that if you're going to get exposure to him, you would want it on a Chase team. But
Yeah.
I think Addison is fine.
Okay. So yeah, after you know our 5 rounds, we're currently sitting at 4 wide receivers: Chase, JSN, Odunze, and Addison, and then Trey McBride at tight end, kind of opening us up to really go whatever direction we want going forward. And say it's not. I mean, I don't think that obviously Burrow's going to fall 24 picks to our next pick, but I mean, if I feel like if anybody's going to fall, it's probably going to be somebody like Burrow, who's just a pure pocket quarterback. Uh, I just don't, you know, I've seen some quarterbacks fall considerably in some of these drafts and some of my slow drafts, so it's not out of the realm of possibilities. And I mean, that's where I would feel comfortable taking Burrow.
Yeah.
You know, a couple rounds later.
Yeah.
So we kind of see where things go. I have been kind of is you know, Mahomes is one of those narrative picks. Like, what's the narrative? Especially now after the Super Bowl, I think the narrative surrounding who he is going to, you know, take a big hit.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I mean, do you feel like really the Super Bowl this year changes anything about Mahomes, or is he just gonna drop I mean, I foresee obviously an ADP drop coming, but
Yeah.
you feel like it changes who he is comparatively to like who he was in 2024?
I mean, no, not really. I don't think that we should put a lot of stock into his Super Bowl performance or even really his 2024 performance as a whole. We kind of, you know, it's not that uncommon for quarterbacks to have those kind of down years and bounce back up the next year. So I'm not worried about Mahomes, although I do think that a kind of drop in ADP is probably justified, and I'll be looking to take advantage of that strategically throughout the offseason.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. Well, interested to see how the whole Rasheed Rice situation plays out because I think
Right.
that's obviously Xavier Worthy is going to come screaming up draft boards. But really, what happens with Rasheed Rice? Number one, is he going to be fully healthy, and number two, obviously, his legal consequences because they really just cobbled together that wide receiver room all year, their whole receiving core.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm interested to see what they do as far as that whole entire situation for 2025 because I think it's going to look drastically different. I mean, let's say pretty much all those guys. Pretty sure Hopkins is a free agent. Even like ancillary guys like Justin Watson's a free agent. Hollywood's a free agent. Lots of just basically their whole receiver room right now is like Sky Moore, Xavier Worthy, and Rasheed Rice. And I
Yeah.
mean, Rasheed Rice looked like one of the best, top five wide receivers in the league before he got hurt. And I mean,
Right.
obviously, it's a 3 week sample, but I mean, he was crushing. So, um, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
interested, especially in that Super Bowl. Obviously, it was garbage time, but seeing the deep connection between Mahomes and Worthy, it's like, where was this the first, however many, what was that, week 19 of the season? Like, where was
Yeah.
that the
Right.
first week, 18 weeks of the season? So, uh,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah. It
nice to
would
see
be.
that.
It will definitely be interesting to see what happens with Rice. I mean, yeah, like you said, if not for all the uncertainty surrounding his situation, you'll probably see him in the first round in this year, along with guys like, you know, Nico and Thomas and Neighbors up in that range.
And we are currently 2 picks away. And Mahomes is still sitting in there at the top of the queue by ADP. We're looking at running backs, we have guys like James Conner, Tyrone Tracy, Judkins. Tracy just went, so really not looking great as far as the running backs. I think I'm willing to push it, unless you have interest in Connor or Judkins. If we want to try to build out some sort of Arizona stack or jump with Judkins,
Yeah,
otherwise we're
I'm
looking.
okay kind of continuing to push it. I think some of the wide receivers do become pretty interesting. Yeah, a couple of rookies there. You've queued up Luther Burden and Buka,
Hmm.
and I'm happy with those two picks. What are your thoughts on Debo?
I'm interested to see where he goes. Do you have a preference of either of these rookies?
Probably Burden would be my
Okay.
preference, but
Then we're just about out of time on that. So we got Burden. Now we can have a few seconds to talk. I mean, the thing about Debo is, so he had his efficiency cratered last year, after he was super efficient in 2023, but in 2022 he also cratered in efficiency. But I just don't see that bounce back coming. Uh,
15 seconds or 10, is Mahomes worth taking in the seventh round now? Is the other
I,
question
I
without
don't
having
know.
anyone to stack him with.
I say we can push it. So
All right.
we just go with Buka and just kind of
Yeah,
let it
I'm good
ride.
with that. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Because I mean, obviously, I think as the season goes on or the off season, I mean, I feel like he's going to drop. Uh, Maybe even like I guess it depends on what we really like, what thresholds we're going to place on the window QBs. Um, I generally think it's around what 7 or 8 through round 12 ish. I want to say like the thresholds that we generally put on them.
Yeah.
So uh, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be overcorrection with just how his season went, and then just how the Super Bowl went. The narrative, the recency bias is going to push him down. I mean, I could be wrong on that as well. Uh, we'll see. I'm interested to see when maybe some more casual drafters get in. Like, obviously, right now, it's pretty much all the weirdos like us that don't never stop drafting all year round. So it's
Yeah.
generally pretty sharp people in drafts. You can even look at all the the badges that are in here right now. There's only two teams that don't have badges. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it's like yeah, I mean, I think maybe he won't fall as far in these drafts, but I think come May or when like BBM opens, that we'll see him maybe fall a little bit more. But I could 100% be wrong on that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
speaking of the window, I was going to kind of go through, um, starting if we look at round, well, I guess so. Bo Nix is like the first pick by ADP of round would be the first pick of round 8. So we're
mhm.
looking kind of the window QBs that we kind of have everybody that's clustered in there right now. We're looking like Bo Nix, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Drake May, uh, Prescott, Stroud, Lawrence, and then Penix would round it out if we're just going straight up through. I guess that would be
End of
round
round 11.
13. Oh yeah, that's around 11. My math is off. I'm thinking, yeah. That's round 11. So if we go
Yeah.
all the way to the end of round 12, I guess you'd add in two Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, and I guess yeah, that would push us to the end of round 12. So a lot of window QBs, if that's what
Mhm.
if it's what we're
Mhm.
calling it. So like that's what I said. I've been happy kind of just peppering those guys in there, going either two or even every once in a while three.
Yeah.
Mixing it up a little bit, especially when you have the 20th round, you have those extra two picks. So I'm not opposed to doing like three QBs in the window either. And even some of
Yeah.
those guys past the window, I'm okay with as well. So it's pretty good.
For
That's why
sure.
it's so hard, I feel like, to really go with the elite quarterbacks this year because really even none of them are generally we don't really have any round two elite quarterbacks this year. Uh really feels like it kind of fell a little bit after we had that big elite quarterback year in 2023,
Yeah.
and everybody got steamed up. I
Yeah.
just have a hard time really drafting any of those guys when you have like all that value right in the middle, and
Right.
even afterwards.
And a lot of upside in that range too, where you get guys like Drake May, Caleb Williams, maybe Penix. You can make a case for guys going into year 2 who could take a significant leap, uh, right there in the window.
Hmm.
And I guess you could even like McCarthy's round 13, but then Cam Ward is right after him. So both of those guys are kind of unknowns, which is a good thing because that means wide range of outcomes could be a lot of upside.
Yeah. I mean, I I don't know. I mean, really, Darnold's projected salary is about 40 million annually, and the franchise tag for him would be right around 40 million as well. That's the one thing I haven't been taking any Darnold this year just
Mm.
because I just feel like he's such a trap play. I think I say it every stream, so I'll just kind of like shut up about that going forward, hopefully. But I mean, I just have been bypassing him and going right to McCarthy when I'm doing my Viking stacks. But
Yeah,
there's like a very real possibility that they just franchise him and just
and
let it
McCarthy
ride for a
sits
year.
another year. Yeah,
Yeah, which terrifies me, but that's a very real possibility, and obviously, like, Darnold can't really do much about that if that's what they choose to do, but I feel like the Vikings are a smart organization that kinda see what he is, and just I don't really feel like, for $40 million a year, I don't feel like there's that big of a drop in, skill from McCarthy, who's so complete unknown versus versus Darnold.
yeah. I mean, it does really depend, I think, on whether, like, obviously McCarthy is kind of the future, and we'll keep talking after we make these
Mhm.
picks. Um, Kyler Murray, do we? Uh, he's
It's a
the
tricky
value here,
one.
I guess.
Yeah. We have him with McBride. I wasn't sure if we want to stack him or Williams.
Oh,
If you
right.
want, do you have a preference of those two?
I mean, I prefer Williams, but I'm happy to go either way.
We can
Yeah,
go
let's actually
Williams.
do Murray because, well,
Oh,
too late.
I think I. Oh nope, I didn't swap them in time. I
That's all
mean,
right.
if you have any, if you want to double tap, we can. I feel like getting a running back would be kind of smart. We're in round 9 without a running back so far, but we can make this a deep
Yeah.
zero RB. We got
No,
15
no, no.
seconds.
Actually, I'm a your call here.
Ooh, let's
Let's go
get
Murray.
wild. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
get silly just for. So I feel like Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray. I mean, I'd be comfortable sticking with two quarterbacks if that's the way we want to go. Obviously, we're probably going to be looking at a whole lot of running backs late. Just for
Yeah.
those, I don't think Blair's going to toot his own horn, but I'll I'll toot your horn for you, Blair. Is that Blair finished second in the Scott Fish Bowl in 2024, and what do you say? You were the last team in the whole entire contest to draft a running back, like your running back one.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was like a 15th round Marshawn Lloyd
So,
was my
so it's
running
still
back
Marshall
one.
Lloyd. Yes. So yeah, a
So a
running back
literal
one who's
zero
got you
running
like
back.
no, yeah. So yeah, if I'm gonna go this extreme zero RB with anybody, I'd like to do it with like Blair or Sean.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. I think Scott Fishbowl was nice because you only had to start one running back. You could flex other positions, and that made it work out that like having Bucky Irving be my starting running back almost every week was fine, and obviously he played well, which helped a lot.
And I say even doing something like this too. Obviously, we're not really trying to fill out like our flex. Essentially, we're going to say like our flex is either going to be like a wide receiver or something if this is this build. So we're only really looking for like two running backs to really hit. If we can find some deep values like that in this draft, but that's essentially what I would be hoping for. Is just like we find guys that provide enough points to like give us some decent running back production, but our wide receiver spots will be so stacked that we don't really have to worry too much about running back points.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You would think like in the environment in which zero running back was kind of developed, it was a very running back heavy first round, first two rounds even. And you can see why zero RB is so effective there because you're able to get all of the best wide receivers basically. You know, 6 of the top 15 wide receivers by end of season rank is kind of Sean's the goal he stated in that original article. When it's a wide receiver heavy first two rounds, that becomes more difficult, obviously, but you make up for that because the quality of running backs you're able to get in, you know, sixth, seventh, eighth round is so much better than it has been in in past seasons where you see, you know, 18 running backs off the board in the first two rounds or something.
Yeah.
Now the running back 18 is going in round 5.
Yeah. So coming, we're 6 picks away. Are we gonna? How you feel about? Are we gonna do running back, or you want to keep pushing it? How silly are we gonna get today? Is really the question that I guess I should ask you.
Well, I see Drake May sitting there after taking 2 quarterbacks. He still is tempting. We don't have any Travis Hunter exposure, and maybe we don't want it, but yeah, the running backs here aren't that exciting.
We're looking at like Scattaboo, Tank Bigsby, Devin Neal, Tajay Spears, Rico Dowdle, Benson, Rashad White, Jerome Ford, Blake Corum are really the first running backs by ADP, and then we're looking at like Dylan Sampson and Golly Gordon.
I
So
guess we
not
should
very
probably
exciting.
I'm just looking at who's like, if we don't take a running back here, who do we have coming back? And it's maybe Benson comes back to us, probably Rashad White. But if we want someone like Spears or Devin Neal or Bigsby, we'd probably have to take him now.
I'm okay with passing on Bigsby. I'm not really hyped on him this year. And then Travis Hunter did go as well. So for our
So does
RB1,
Scatterbo. Okay.
yeah, I'm okay with Spears. I think we've taken him on in both of our first two drafts.
But one of them got wiped
Well,
out, so we have to
yeah,
take
one
him
we got
again.
wiped out. So we took Spears as our RB1. Is
Ooh,
there
there's
any?
also Stroud here.
Yeah. How are you feeling? We got about 15 seconds left. Stroud or Neal?
Uh, I kind of, I'm not sure how you play the Texans
Yeah. We're
after Stroud is off the
yeah, we're
board. So maybe
and I
let's
think
just go Neal.
yeah, just kind of we won't get too cute at this point. Even though they say Stroud is really seems like one of the best values as
Best
far as
values in the
quarterback. I
whole
mean, just
draft. Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's regardless of position. Uh, I just don't. He was still obviously weighed down by that offense and them going so mix-in heavy, and I just don't see them doing that again. I think that was probably a big reason maybe why Slowick's gone from there.
Yeah.
You know, they had this, and plus too, obviously we saw it in the playoff loss where their offensive line, especially interior offensive line, was not good. Uh, Stroud was kind of running for his life, so
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe they shore up that. I know that they don't have a ton of cap space, but yeah, I
Right.
just
Right.
I don't see any way that you really look at that Texans offense and say, like, putting the ball in Stroud's hand is not the best path to victory,
Exactly.
fantasy or otherwise. It's like so I hope that we see like a wholesale change in basically the way that the offense is run next
Yeah.
season.
For sure. And maybe I think one thing we have talked about in the past is how you can kind of play that through a lot of the rookie wide receivers because there's probably a decent chance that they draft one of them in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I see a lot of people talking either like Golden or Egbuka to them in the first round. But I also would
Hmm.
be I think I would almost be more excited to see them draft like interior offensive linemen in the first round and
Yeah.
kind of maybe go by one of those because you have Nico, you have an alpha, like a pure alpha wide receiver one. So even though it'd be cool to see them use a first round pick maybe on a wide receiver, I think protecting Stroud may be more important. And they've hit I don't know if you want to call Tank Dell a hit. Maybe he's a little more up in the air still of exactly what he is as a pro, even before the injury, because he really hasn't, you know, he's shown it in spurts, but no consistency. But I mean, I feel, I guess, confident in their ability to uh, look at to evaluate wide receiver talent,
Sure.
even
Yeah,
though yeah,
yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, Nico's only 25, I think. So it's not like they are going to be looking to replace him, but you always do want to be looking toward the future. But yeah, definitely protecting Stroud should be priority number one.
yeah. So coming down the pipe, just as a recap so far, so we're kind of doing a I don't know if it's I don't really know if I'd consider this like an extreme zero RB build, but we waited till the first or the last pick of the 10th round for our or for our running back one. We're currently sitting at 2-2-6-1 build. Caleb Williams and Kyler Murray. The running backs are Tajay Spears and Devin Neal. Wide receivers are Jamar Chase, JSN, Odunze, Addison, Luther Burden, and Emeka Egbuka. And tight end is Trey McBride. Uh, so really, I guess just like macro, just looking at roster building, how like ideally without really knowing ADP values, like what would your ideal like build be for something like this? Because I'm thinking almost like 2, 7, 7. I don't think it would be. I don't think we need 4 tight ends with an elite tight end. So maybe 3, 7. 3, 7, 7, 3 builds is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. I think if you're gonna, yeah, if you're gonna not go with three onesies, it makes sense to get more wide receivers. So I'd go like 2, 7, 9, 2 could also be a possibility, or
Hmm.
3, 2, 7, 8, 3, or 3, 7, 8, 2, something like that. One of
Yeah.
those kind of builds where you kind of use those dart throws at the end on some high upside receivers.
Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, my lean would be to almost overcompensate for a running back, but that could also be wrong. I'm fully willing to admit that like that might not be the way to go. Or even like if we were just gonna stick at two two at the onesie positions of each, it'd be like 2, 8, 8 build, because I feel like all the capital that we spent at wide receiver in the beginning of the draft would like lead us to really kind of like try to take more upside shots on the running back. But I'm fully willing to admit that that may be just like a me thinking about building it the wrong way. So I'd be open to like your interpretation of if you think that I'm not thinking about it correctly.
So the roster construction explorer obviously is mostly assuming 18 round drafts, and there's also a pretty small sample of teams that have waited this long to take their first running back. So uh it's hard to get like really solid data on this type of build, but it does appear that even on zero RB teams, there are diminishing returns with taking that those extra running backs, like going beyond 6 or 7, even when you're doing a zero running back build. So that's the only kind of guidance I have. We are on the clock.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts is at the top of the list. Do you any consideration of taking McCarthy here to pair with Addison?
Uh After we just talked about how
Well,
how
that's the
nervous
other
I
thing.
am
We
about.
can also, like, Darnold might make it back to us.
Yeah.
So you want to just kind of
They'll
see how that goes.
yeah, I
I'm
think
happy to do that.
yeah. And I have Samson in the queue and Ollie Gordon. Do you have a preference between those two?
Oh, not really. Probably a little lean toward Gordon, but I don't
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
We can go Gordon because I have so much Samson that I'm okay with kind of getting exposure to different different guys.
Yeah.
Let's say Samson is one of my favorite. A little bit further down the running back list by ADP, Jalen Wright is someone who I have not taken at all this year so far.
Hmm.
And I think that it maybe if I'm like overcorrecting because I was so heavy on him last year that I am, kind of like scared away by him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, but if you look at it, like, I mean, Mostert could easily be cut this year. He did nothing in 2024. They could always bring in somebody, them being the Dolphins, could always bring in somebody else in this draft. I just don't know if I'm thinking about it wrong or if I'm just the scorned ex-lover or whatever that I'm just like going too far overcorrecting for all the Jalen Wright shares that I had last year. So how are you feeling about him this year?
Yeah, I'm still on board with Jalen Wright. I think you know, obviously he didn't get to play a lot, and he was on a lot of my teams and did not help them. But he did show some explosiveness, some talent in the few opportunities he got. So I'm optimistic that he's going to see his opportunity grow in year 2, and uh, hopefully be able to capitalize on that. I think in the 14th round, he's a really good pick.
Okay. I say, yeah, this may be the draft because it's one of those things where like the upside case is still there, but so I'm
Yeah.
just like, why am I not picking him? Why am I like essentially he's one of those names. I don't know if other people this, but like a lot of times in draft, they're just names that I don't see that I just look over it like automatically. And actually, Trey Benson is another name that I have not drafted. I have not drafted him once this
Mm.
offseason. So I don't know. And he was another guy that I was pretty high on last year, but I mean, Wright actually, I guess Benson looked okay at times when he was given opportunity. He didn't get many opportunities behind Connor.
Yeah.
But I think Wright popped more than
Yeah.
Benson did
I agree.
when he was given opportunity. So, but Benson's another one of those guys. How are you feeling about that? Like James Conner, something that I was like harping on all offseason last offseason was like, hey, James Conner has averages like 12 games every year over his career. He's gonna miss time. He's gonna miss time. And then in 2024, he didn't miss any time. For the first
Yeah.
time ever, he didn't miss a game in his career. So babes, I don't see him basically sticking with that. I feel maybe he'll revert to maybe missing a game or two, getting dinged up here and there. But how do you feel about Benson?
Yeah, Benson, kind of in the same boat as you, where I have more confidence in Jalen Wright in year two, and part of that is because Benson, yeah, like there wasn't even a hint that he was close to taking work uh from Connor, and obviously it's not like Wright was going to all of a sudden overtake uh Achan in the Dolphins backfield, but there did seem to be some cases where the team preferred him over Mostert, for instance, and would actually have him on the field instead of Mostert. Whereas Benson, I mean, I don't know, was he even ahead of DeMercado or whoever the other backs on that team were?
Yeah, I think it seemed like it was like on a week by week basis, really, of who
Yeah.
they were throwing in there. My biggest thing is it's something we kind of brought up last week on the stream as well. Oh, excuse me. Is that I think basically like Benson being a third round pick, I believe he was last year, like a third round pick running back, like in the tiers that they were last year, is probably like the same level of talent that maybe like you know an early day three pick is going to be in this year's draft. It's just like the
Mhm.
amount of talent is going to push these guys down. Where like Benson, if he were in this year's draft, I mean, he'd probably be maybe selected in, I don't know, maybe like the 120 to 150 range is where I'd guess. Like he'd be like clumped in there as opposed to being like a surefire day two guy. And that's
Yeah.
obviously that's hindsight of seeing him not do well in his rookie season. So
Right.
like there's probably a little bit of that like hindsight bias in there as well. But really, it's like I don't think we should anchor to their draft round last year. To say like to making cases for some of these guys.
Right. Well, Jalen Wright still on the board. Our pick is coming up. We did see Darnold go off the board to the McCarthy drafter, so that was an interesting strategy. You don't see, I mean, maybe Darnold is on a different team, but I think at this point, if the assumption is that he's going to stay in Minnesota, you're kind of handcuffing quarterbacks, which guaranteed to get the starter, I guess,
Yeah.
along with a dead roster spot. If you're going to do it in the 20 round draft.
Yeah. So currently in the queue, we're on the clock. Ivor, Strepo, and Wright. Do you want to take the dive on Wright
Yeah,
since
let's
we were
go
talking
right.
about him?
Let's
Okay.
go right. And then I don't know how you feel about Restrepo compared to like Iron Maynor or somebody else.
At this point, I mean, I don't really have a strong lean. They're both guys that I feel like are pretty even. I mean, Restrepo's the ADP value at this point,
Let's
but I
go
don't.
Restrepo. And
Okay.
I think we might have drafted him on the team that got wiped out.
Yeah, we
So
did.
yeah. So we got to make up for that.
hmm Um, we did talk about Garendo that things could change a lot, or as far as the 49ers are just always a wild card. Grendo's a fun player, but he might also fall in that same bucket that he could just, he's a fun player. Obviously, big size, speed, like monsters. I think his freak score was like 99th percentile
Yep.
last year. Crazy freak score, but at the same time, we never really know what the 49ers are going to do with their backfield. So there's a chance,
Yep.
if he could either like blow the doors off or be a complete zero, like wide range of outcomes in San Francisco. So
He actually has the highest running back freak score ever in the history of the metric.
so good guy to bank on if we're gonna go with anybody. But I just kind of pull right now. I have the running backs that are left by ADP. So our current running back room is Tajay Spears, Devin Neal, Ollie Gordon, Jalen Wright. So in order to round out this running back room, kind of how would we be looking at filling it out? Obviously, we want high upside guys, and we're still 18 picks away, so a lot of these
Yeah.
guys might be gone. But like currently, we're looking at guys like Garendo, who never mind just went. By ADP, we're looking at Eckler, Roshan Johnson, Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams, Nick Chubb, Jordan Mason, Kendre Miller. These are veterans I'm kind of talking about, are guys that aren't rookies.
Yeah.
Antonio Gibson, like we're kind of running out. Any of those veteran options, or any of those guys that kind of pop to you in a zero RB build?
So it's tricky because you do want some guaranteed touches in a zero RB build. A guy like Eckler probably has those passing targets. Jaden Daniels threw to his running backs a lot this year. Eckler didn't always benefit because he was hurt a lot, mostly concussions, I think. So, I mean, a player like that can make a lot of sense, but at the same time, do we want to try to find somebody who has about the same, chance of getting those guaranteed touches, but also has a lot more upside? Like, I don't know if you'd say Javonte Williams fits that kind of profile. I don't know if maybe we would say Kendre Miller could. He's more of an unknown, so I don't know if I would put him there. But that's kind of ideally you get somebody with those guaranteed touches who also could end up being the guy. I don't think that's in the cards for Eckler. I don't think that's in the cards for someone like Justice Hill, who does catch some passes, although not as many. He's never going to be, he's even if Derrick Henry gets injured, he's not going to take over that backfield. So, how do we get the combination of maybe guaranteed passing down work and complete backfield domination upside?
Yeah.
Is it Javonte? Is it a rookie?
So yeah, if we pass essentially like, so if the only guys that I'd even consider, I mean, you made the case for Eckler. He had a good season, but I don't know if that's going to continue. I really don't. I don't. You never feel good clicking Austin Eckler at this point. Really, the only guys that I would see maybe some guaranteed touches, Eckler, like Williams is even kind of an owner. Like I want to believe that he's going to get signed with to some, but I think, I mean, with how good the incoming rookie class is, I think it's going to suppress the values of all these free agent running back contracts, where maybe like the values aren't going to necessitate somebody like Javonte Williams like really even guaranteed a role. He'll probably make,
Yeah,
I don't know, I just want to say like 6 million or so, 6-7 million a year. And at this point, like that doesn't really necessitate you even having a role in a backfield. So it's scary,
that's true.
the free agents that are going to be, well, he just went, so we don't have to worry about that. But like, and even, I mean, the only like Nick Chubb is kind of interesting as somebody like harkening back to the glory days, but I don't even feel great about that, obviously, because
Right.
injuries and age. And if he signs with Cleveland, maybe they'll just give him like, I don't want to say like some nostalgia touches or something like that. Like remember the glory days. Let's hand it to Chubb. Give him
Yeah.
like 15 touches a game. But as things are winding down, like this doesn't really look. It looks like we might just be stocking up on rookie running backs to fill out this room.
We might. If Eckler is still there on our pick, I'd be really tempted to take him just to have, in a very rookie heavy running back room, having somebody who you kind of can pencil in those targets for can be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
There he goes.
And there you go. So, do you have any sort of interest in Chubb whatsoever, or is he just a straight up like he's just too old? He's just too many question marks, red
Uh,
flags.
no, I'm okay with Chubb. He's definitely a red flag guy in a number of ways, in that he's, you know, not might not play that much, might not get that much work, but especially does not get that much receiving work. So at this
Yeah,
point, I might prefer to go the rookie route. I think I do. I still have some love for Kendre Miller.
Yeah, I I honestly don't have very much, but I'm not I
Okay.
still see the
No, that's
upside
fine.
case.
That's fine.
Uh, the so between would you rather go,
I'd rather go
Giddens
Giddens.
okay, we'll go Giddens, who I like a lot,
Yeah.
pretty excited for him. And then, I do have Betch and Wilson in the queue as far as wide receivers. Wilson is a stack with Murray.
Mm, yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm happy to go with your preference here.
Okay, well, we'll go with I have a ton of Betch, and I think Wilson was another of those guys that we picked in the last draft that got wiped out, and
Yeah, I think that's
makes
right.
a little more sense with
On a
having
Murray
him with,
team. Yep.
yeah, on a Murray team as opposed to just kind of free floating. So we're currently sitting at 2.582. Uh, really, our biggest, I think, really hammering, excuse me, running back going forward with 3 picks left might be the way to go. Do you have any
Yeah.
interest in any sort of either adding a third quarterback or tight end?
Probably a third quarterback would be where I would lean.
Hmm.
But that becomes tricky unless you really believe in one of the rookies.
Yeah, or you're looking at somebody like Aaron Rodgers, Kirk
Right?
Cousins, who I know, Russell Wilson. Like we talked before, I haven't really been drafting any of these guys. I don't. I know Jackson Dart is flying up boards, and
Yeah.
he's like a early second round pick. I mean, he played for in that old Miss offense. That's like a stat stuffing, stat padding offense.
Yeah.
He has some mobility. Like I get it, but that feels like a classic example of basically just like the demand for quarterbacks, supply and demand is just like the supply is so low that the
Right.
demand's just kind of steaming him up. I know, but I
Right.
also know that there's some really sharp people who know more about prospect analysis that do like him a lot. So, but I really haven't found myself really wanting to draft him right just yet. And Milrose just kind of a zilch. And really, I mean, this might be my hot take is like I wouldn't be surprised if like Dylan Gabriel's the second best quarterback in this whole entire quarterback class. But
Yeah.
also, I'm not about to draft him in any sort of any sort of contest where I'm drafting a single QB or we're starting a
Right.
single
Right.
QB. So I wouldn't be I'd be happy drafting him in super flex. He is like a last round pick on like a zero QB sort of build. But I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Right. 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 Yeah. I mean, QB is so difficult because yeah, like you said, from a statistical standpoint, Dart looks like he might actually be pretty good, but there have been a lot of quarterbacks that look good statistically and then end up flopping, who are, guys who get way higher draft capital than what Dart is likely to get. So, are there tight ends that you like at this point?
Uh, we have JT Sanders. He's a guy that I know that we both kind of have talked about
Yeah.
liking. Like Chig's okay. Juwan Johnson could kind of stuff his like put up some better stats if he goes to the right offense. Like I always make the connection between Sean Payton drafting Juwan Johnson and then Denver does not have a tight end currently, so I always make that kind of
Right.
connection. But I mean that's just like a long shot, a shot in the dark. I don't think Juwan Johnson has really done much to really you know, necessitates drafting him at this point, but he just a converted wide receiver. He just makes sense as a receiving tight end, but I mean, he's just as likely to be usable in a few weeks as he is to be a total zero. So
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
JT Sanders and Chig are the two that kind of interest me. I don't know if there's any other names that interest you right now.
Uh, Probably Theo Johnson would be the other name I'd be looking at. Um, just hoping that the Giants with a new offense kind of take a step forward, and he benefits from that. I mean, he's a big athletic guy who should be scoring touchdowns for them. So
Yeah, and we are 3 picks away, and Chubb is still there. Is he somebody you'd consider at this point if he's obviously with one of our last 3 picks, or would you rather
yeah,
just go
definitely.
full upside?
No, no, I definitely consider Chubb here. I think there's a lot of other kind of post hype guys I'd consider, like Marshawn Lloyd and Shipley, although Shipley's kind of later anyway. It's
Mhm.
not really a value here.
And that's Marshawn Lloyd's the guy that I have not taken at all. We're on currently on the clock. Do you wanna pull the trigger on Chubb or
Yeah, let's get Chubb here.
okay,
So
well, I'm
we
gonna
were
let the
talking
clock
about him
run, yeah.
last round.
And I almost feel like if we do, feel like double tapping running back might be the way to go here because I think any like Theo Johnson and Chig. Well, Chig might not make it to the end, but I think Theo
Theo
Johnson will be
Johnson.
there if we go there. So I
Yeah, I'm
wouldn't
happy with that. You want Chubb and Sanders, or is he the
one guy that
top guy on your list?
uh really Jarquez Hunter. I think we
Okay.
talked about him in the last stream as a guy whose draft capital isn't matching really what his output was.
Yeah,
He looks really good. Good peripheral stats. I'd go Hunter, I guess, over any of these guys right now.
I'm good with that.
Okay. And I say I like Sanders a lot too. It's like Sanders feels like a throwback. He almost reminds me if you if nobody, has watched Raheem Sanders, like I guess the best way to do it is watch his South Carolina highlights first because what I did, like when I first started doing my rookie research and trying to find film, there wasn't any of his South Carolina film, and I watched his Arkansas film from his sophomore season, and
Yeah,
it's just insane because he's 230 pounds and he was like just outrunning everybody on the field. He's clearly the best player on the field. So you're like,
yeah,
why is this guy like not projected to be like he has the look of a first round running back. The guy that I guess that kind of a little more of a throwback guy that might not resonate as well with some people is like Fred Taylor, who was about 230 pounds and ran like a
yeah,
4.28 40 when he came out way back. But obviously, like if you haven't been playing fantasy since the early 2000s, you just remember like his the end of his career, and he was like a boomer bust guy. But I mean, he's just an athletic freak, and that's kind of
right.
what Sanders reminds me of. Well, Theo Johnson did get taken, so I lied to you, Blair. But yeah, that's kind of like just size, speed, monster. And then he had I believe it was an ankle injury his junior year at Arkansas that really kind of wiped him out. And he did not look like the same guy at South Carolina, but I mean, hopefully maybe he gets a little bit of that athleticism back. But I'm interested to see how he tested the combine because I mean, he was one of those guys that could afford to lose a step and he would still be, a
Yeah,
great player. So
yeah, yeah. Well, if he makes it back to us, I'm okay doing 2882 if that's what you want to do.
yeah,
Um,
we can look at I did on our last stream
Juwan
did talk a
Johnson's
little
still
bit.
there, so
Yeah, Juwan Johnson's there. I mean, I did make my case for Mason Taylor, and it looks like Arroyo did get
Royos
taken.
went. Yeah.
Yeah. So and really, and there goes. And is there? I really like. I really want Ben Sinnott to be a thing this year, but he's a hard click at this point.
I mean, in the 20th round, there aren't. I'm okay with almost anything.
Yeah.
What do we
Uh,
have for QB? Just if we decided we wanted to do that,
yeah. Dart, Cousins, Rogers are the only guys that may see the field.
right?
Do you have
Yeah,
any? Are you holding out any hope for Jalen Milrow? Because he was a guy that if you watch, he's another highlights guy. If you watch his highlights,
yeah,
they'll kind of like blow your mind because he's got a cannon. He looks like a running back when he's running. He isn't Anthony Richardson big. He looks like a legit like just really like athletic running back. I'm trying to comp him as like a running back, and I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. But he's just a beast. But then when you Then I watched, Senior Bowl. I watched Senior Bowl practices, and he just looks so lost, which
Yeah,
is odd because like he was the athletic Heisman, so the guy's smart. It's not like I don't know if he was maybe overthinking things. So I
right.
don't know. I had big
Yeah,
hopes for him, and
I'm on board with him in the 20th round for sure. I think, um, you know, if he's not going to be drafted in the first round, then it's probably not going to happen for him in year one. But I'm still willing to take a shot at on take a few shots in the last round, just to get some exposure.
yeah, I think I got a lot of exposure really early on. I think like the first 3 or 4 drafts that I did, as soon as the contest opened, I drafted him. So I and that was before obviously Senior Bowl practices. So I've backed off, but I'm not opposed to. I mean, the Anthony Richardson thesis is always there that literally his testing could be so good, and like
Right.
you know Richardson just like wowed with like his pure athletic ability, just chucking the ball deep, and everybody knew that he wasn't accurate, and it was basically just a pure traits thing. And he still saw the field, and obviously, he did well. If it's not to say that Milrow couldn't do the same thing if he stays healthy. Like he could be a viable quarterback play, especially as a
Yeah.
third quarterback in a build. So we are 4 picks away. So would you go if we do quarterback? Would you go Milrow over these older guys, Rich or Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins? Are they even like quarterbacks that you're even contemplating drafting at all this year?
I mean, I'm contemplating Rogers, just kind of depending, kind of hoping for an upside landing spot, but I think I would go Milrow over both of them
Okay,
on this team for sure.
yeah. Well, so we just got hit with a few quick picks. So last pick, you could, I'll leave it up to you. It's all.
Oh man.
I mean, I think it's either Sanders or Milrow, probably.
Yeah, let's go Milrow.
Okay, he's fun. Uh,
I
you
don't
say,
know I don't know if that's the best way to finish out this team, but he'd
well, that,
obviously have a lot of upside if he does start in year one and the team that he plays for is halfway decent. I mean, when you're talking about a quarterback who's going to be drafted either early second round or possibly slide in, well, teams at the end of the first round usually don't need quarterbacks, but we'll see what happens.
yeah, and really, my initial thoughts on Milrow, uh, whereas, like, I mean, we can, like I always say, hindsight with Jalen Hurts. Everybody knows how it turned out, but I feel like the Jalen Hurts trajectory is kind of the similar because similar is what Milrow's facing because coming out of college, coming out of Oklahoma, like Hurts had a good year, but there were still questions about what he was as a passer.
Yeah.
And like initially, before all the Senior Bowl stuff happened, that's kind of where I thought was the same with Milrow. And since then, I've kind of obviously taken a step back as far as what I believe his outcome is. Like I think I have him as projected as like a day 2 pick, but I think an NFL mock draft he's still firmly in the second round. So I don't know. I mean, there's always the chance that he rises. He's like probably, if anything, he's going to be one of those combine guys who. I mean, I'm interested to see. I mean, I think he could be a sub 4.5 guy for sure.
Yeah.
And then he's going to chuck the ball. I mean, he's got a cannon. It's just his consistency and his accuracy. So,
Right. Right. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
overall,
He's an interesting player.
I do like this build. I think, this is probably the deepest is our, I guess the latest zero RB team that I've had this so far this year. So
Mm,
picking out of the one spot, we had a 3-7-8-2 build with Kayla Williams, Kyler Murray, Jalen Milrow. So a fun quarterback room. Then our zero RB room is Tajay Spears, Devin Neal, Ollie Gordon, Jalen Wright, DJ Giddens, Nick Chubb, Jarquez Hunter. At wide receiver, we have Chase, JSN, Roma Dunze, Jordan Addison, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, Xavier Restrepo, and Michael Wilson. And at tight end, we have McBride and Kyle Pitts.
Love it.
So, yeah, overall, pretty good. I do think I like this draft a little more than the one that got wiped out last week.
Yeah, I think I do too.
I'm just trying to think of, I can't even remember off
We
the top
had
of
a
my head.
lot more rookie wide receivers on that team, and probably we felt the need to draft Michael Wilson because we wanted some a little more of a floor. And on this team, we draft him because he fits with the Kyler pick. So it's a little bit more coherent, I think.
Yeah. And I think last week, I don't remember who our top tight end was, but I remember Pitts was our tight end too as well, and we stuck at 2. I can't
Yeah.
remember if it was I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it was maybe a mid-tier, like
It was a later
maybe not
guy.
elite.
Maybe
Yeah.
Kittle.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think Kittle, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So overall, a good builds and uh yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it. I like we just need I'm glad we talked through Jalen Wright. Kind of talked me back off the ledge. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if he does get passed up by an incoming rookie, but at the same time, I mean, like his situation hasn't changed that much. And I feel like there's always going to be, 2 running backs in that Miami backfield, because even if we consider Achane a workhorse ish, like somewhere that's going to get around 20 opportunities a game, it's always going to be a mixture of targets and carries. So I think there's always going to be a few carries and a few targets, left over for the people behind him. I don't think he's ever going to just completely dominate that
Yeah.
that entire backfield. So I mean, he's Achane somebody that I want to get on more teams because I don't have him either. But I mean, I'm not opposed to picking up the backups either.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think he makes sense on this team. I guess the one thing which we were talking about that you would like in your running back room is some more guaranteed touches. When you have a team that's mostly rookies and then some year 2 guys who didn't really show, you know, who just showed enough to be interesting, but not to really give you any confidence that they were going to keep getting or that they were going to get a big workload, then, you would have liked to add maybe not necessarily Eckler, but somebody with uh, that kind of touch distribution. Hopefully somebody with a little more upside. But yeah, I still like this team and I like this running back group. And I do believe that at least one of these rookies is going to be able to do something for us.
Yeah, and I think they're all currently projected to be drafted somewhere, end of day 2, early day 3. So we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
It was fun. If nothing else, we had a good time.
There you go. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So, anything further as far as the draft goes?
No, nope. This was fun. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to see how all of these rookies where they end up and whether this team still makes any sense. But yeah, this was a fun one.
Yeah. And speaking of rookies, we are heading down the home stretch as far as the rookie guide goes. Very excited about that. I think it's awesome, but also it's my first time being part of it, so I'm extra stoked about it. So we're coming down the home stretch, so just keep an eye out for that. Pre-sale should be coming up on the site sometime in the near future, and I say the guide should be following shortly after. So very excited about that. Very cool. Uh, just I don't know. It's a fun, especially the running back. The running back class is awesome, and we've highlighted it here. And we'll get deeper with that and everybody else you could possibly want to know about. We got them in there. So, and then also the RV Radio 2025 discount code is live. That's for 10% off of a 1-year subscription at the site. So if anybody's looking to jump in and get more rookie content on the site and all the other good stuff that we have coming out, I do believe Neil Dutton's starting to put out some off-season content. He did put up just an article about 5th-year option players picking up fifth year options. And then also I know that the 2024 rookie review series is going to start coming out pretty soon as well. So
Yep.
looking forward to all that. And I know Blair's got some stuff in the hopper as well.
Hopefully that'll be out. Well, hopefully I'll have something out this week in the next few days. And yeah, we'll have more articles coming, more content, both for Dynasty rookie content and best ball content and everything else you guys are looking for. So yeah, stay tuned to RotoViz. We got a lot of cool stuff coming.
Awesome. Well, that's it for us. So should see everybody next week. I am interested in we did talk about setting up some FFPC Superflex in the coming weeks. So interested to do that. I haven't done any FFPC or any Superflex drafts this year. So I'm gonna be going to that kind of blind. So I'm excited to do that. So yeah, just keep on the lookout. We'll be coming back every week with the RotoViz Best Ball Show. For Blair Andrews, I'm Kevin Szafraniec, and have a good week, and we'll see you all soon.